Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Live with Virginia NORML. I'm J.M. Padini, the Development Director for the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws and the Executive Director of your favorite chapter, Virginia NORML. It's Friday, December 16th, 2022. We've been away for a minute, but we're back now, so we're going to recap everything that's happened in the past month. We're going to talk about what's coming up in 2023, what you might expect to see in the Virginia General Assembly, and how we've been working toward making progress in preparation for session. Hey, Lumpy. Good to see you. Hi, Adam, Michael. Friends, I'm so glad to see you back here. I traveled a lot. I got sick. And here we are. I've missed you so much. All right. If you were paying attention this week, and of course you were, hey, Billy, then you know that the Cannabis Oversight Commission met on Wednesday. If you're paying super close attention, you also know I took up a good portion of that. I was asked to present during the Wednesday Oversight Commission meeting, and my presentation was focused entirely on patient issues with the medical cannabis program. Hey, James, good to see you. Now, Cassidy did take a quick look, and the video is not yet uploaded to LIS. Now, it should be archived, and you should be able to watch it. We did not have video presentation capabilities during the actual presentation. I looked at my computer, and members of the Oversight Commission looked at a printout of the presentation. But largely what I talked about are three buckets of main concerns for patients. Patients have limited access to dispensaries in Virginia. We have 14 that are currently operational. We have 3 that are about to come online soon. And in a very geographically large state with 8.63 million people, 14 is probably not enough. Now, the current model allows for 30 total at the end of the day. Even 30 is probably not enough for a state this big. It's gotten a little more difficult to track patient numbers now that we don't require patients to register, but the program has grown since we've improved the patient participation process. So that's good news. More good news, prices have come down. Now, I did explain that this is not necessarily reflected in attitudes of patients because patients are often buying multiple products. While the prices have come down, good news, doesn't increase the frequency with which patients need to purchase these products. So it can still be cost prohibitive, even when you do look at the prices and you can actually see that they've come down. We're still hearing from patients that they feel it's expensive, and largely the reason is insurance doesn't cover this. And so we did propose that studying insurance coverage or reimbursement for these products could go a long way. We also talked about improving access to certifying providers, and we talked about the confusion that patients experience still with what's actually a dispensary in Virginia, what's actually a medical cannabis product. We're still getting calls and emails and messages every week from consumers who've purchased what turns out to be an unregulated product, unbeknownst to them, and they're experiencing harm from these products. So this is what we talked about, and we provided some pretty practical policy approaches that the legislature might explore in the 2023 session. Hey, Jennifer. Hey, Billy. Good to see you both. Yeah, Billy, it took a lot of work And a lot of Virginians like yourself are really happy that we've come this far. And that's actually something that we highlighted during the presentation. Um, we did mention that this process started way back in 2017, and the state adopted a very limited allowance for medical cannabis, and the regulatory model was also incredibly hyper restrictive. And Virginia is the only state that's taken such a model and really blown the doors off of it and expanded it to serve all patients of any age with all types of products commonly found in the medical cannabis program. We have a true healthcare elements involved. Patients do have the opportunity to consult with a pharmacist at our medical cannabis dispensaries, which we think is really makes it an extraordinary experience. Simply that you can walk in and say, "Hey, can you cross check my current prescriptions for any sort of contraindications?" Or you can call the pharmacist, just like you could for antibiotics at CVS. You can call the pharmacist at the dispensary and say, "Hey, I don't think this is working for me. What do you recommend?" So we did talk about how we've really been able to do extraordinary work with the program that we ultimately were saddled with here in Virginia, but we can still do better. Hey, MD, good to see you. Got your email. Gotta read it at some point. Hey, KA, you're right. We've come an extraordinarily long way. And not only have we made incredible improvements to the medical program, we're the first state in the South to legalize marijuana for adults. So everyone give yourself a high five on that. That was no small feat, even though we still have miles to go. Hey, Eakins, good to see you. And yeah, like big high five to Missouri for joining us this year. When could you read what, Jennifer? When could you read what? The proposals that we made, you could probably hear them in the archive video once it's online. We'll post it whenever it shows up. The Virginia legislature's website, well, it's called LIS, Legislative Information Systems. It's been plagued with issues recently, and so video's been slow to be uploaded. Hey, Dean, good to see you. Hey, Rick, good to see you also, and your new Facebook account. Hello, Sherry. Good to see you, as always, friend. Do the High Times stocks go into effect? Chase, I'm sorry. I don't know anything about High Times. I mean, other than it's a magazine. Jennifer, the proposed bills. Thank you for clarifying. I'm so glad you asked. So right now, as of last check, there was one cannabis bill that has been officially filed for the 2023 session. I'm sure Cassidy can run over and grab the page. It's on the Virginia NORML website. We've added the 2023 marijuana related bills tracker page, if that makes sense. So it's on there. We don't have action alerts posted yet. We're going to wait till we get a little closer to session and more bills are cooking. We have some general expectations of what we think we'll see in 23. But there's still a bit of time before the filing deadline hits. Hey, Heidi, good to see you. Oh, hey, Ronson. Good to see you. I like what you have to say there, friend. Yeah, I hope that when we enact our regulations finally, they are excellent. Largely they will be based, at least from a product and consumer safety standpoint, they're going to be similar, if not identical, to what we have for the medical program. We're not going to dumb it down for adult use. What will be different is the licensing structure. We don't have any reason to believe that we would have a vertical integration mandate on the adult use regulations once those take effect. But otherwise, how products are made and tested and packaged and all of that, it's going to be the same as medical. We're not going to have the same product regulated in two different ways. Some states do that. That's a waste of time and money, because whether you're using it for medical or for adult use, the need for consumer safety is the same. Jennifer, you might not want to print them off and read them, but they'll be there as they post to LIS. We will continue to update that page. Excuse me. It's going to be like that this whole time. Hey, KA, I'm so glad you asked. I also brought this up. I covered the fact that Health Service Area 1 has no medical cannabis dispensaries whatsoever. So if you're going to a dispensary in Charlottesville, you're not. You're going to something, but there are no medical cannabis dispensaries in the entirety of Health Service Area 1, because that license remains under litigation. Now, the next time we expect to see any action on that court case, which is here in Henrico County, well, I'm technically in Richmond, but in Henrico County, the next time we expect to see that will be next summer. So June, July of next year is when we think that there may be time on the docket to look at the appeal. Now, let's say, KA, that it were resolved in June of next year. It would, and ultimately the licensee prevailed. Then it would be, you would be reasonable to expect it takes about 2 years to build up the facility, get approvals, and become operational. This is why we have proposed exploring licensing additional retail-only facilities, because those can become operational much faster than a large vertical facility. A lot of operators and a lot of hopeful applicants have a lot of feelings about medical expansion and, heck, even adult use licensing. And I'll just go ahead and take this moment to remind you that NORML is not a business association. We do not represent industry interest. NORML's focus is solely on consumers. And, regardless of all this litigation and however it shakes out, or who wants to make money first or next, that's not our problem. What we care about is consumers and whether or not they have access to products that are safe, convenient, and affordable. And in the entire top half of the state, except for Health Service Area 2, which is the Northern Virginia Metro, there is no access. That's a problem. Hello, pot calls the kettle bong. I hope you're having an excellent day as well. Hey, Jake, good to see you. Hey, MD, thanks for asking what my general expectations are for bills in a best case scenario in 2023. So what we're expecting to see, we have a bill that takes the code section for medical cannabis regulation, which is currently housed in the Drug Control Act, where Board of Pharmacy's code sections live, and moves it over to the Cannabis Control Act, because the intent is to finish transitioning medical cannabis from Board of Pharmacy over to the Cannabis Control Authority. So that's not really a policy choice bill. It's just a technical moves the code over. That bill's out there. Then when we look at adult use, we understand that Delegate Webert has a omnibus adult use bill that he intends to file in the House of Delegates. We understand that Senator Eben will again introduce an omnibus bill for adult use in the Senate. And then we also understand that out there is a skinny bill likely to be introduced in the House that again approaches a policy option that was proposed last year. And this is a very commonplace policy approach. It is one that all states enact when states expand from medical to adult use. what they typically do first is turn on sales at the existing operators. Because believe it or not, legalization is not about who gets to make a buck first or next off the backs of consumers. It's about ensuring that access to safe, regulated products exists. And so we have dispensaries in Virginia that sell medical cannabis. But unless you participate in the program, unless you can afford to participate in the medical cannabis program, you cannot go shop there, even though marijuana is legal for adults 21 and older. So we expect to see legislation, again, that will allow these existing dispensaries to sell to you if you're 21 or older. There's nothing special about this. State after state after state does this. Now, I get it. People who want to make a buck off of you are going to whine and complain and cry their full spectrum tears about how they deserve to do it first and the current companies don't deserve to do it because they're too big. Do not care. Literally do not care about that. What we care about is consumers having access to a product that is legal in Virginia in a manner that is safe and accessible. Plenty of business organizations out there that can bicker about all the other stuff. It's not our priority. Don't come at me with that. Thanks. So we expect to see that legislation as well. Then there has been ample debate around expanding the medical program, and will we see any kind of legislation targeting medical cannabis licensing? It's possible. Now, I've been made aware that there's a bill out there that proposes doing another round of licensing large vertical companies, one in each health service area. I don't see any appetite for that in this legislature whatsoever. So might someone introduce that bill? Possibly. Do I think it has any path forward? No. Because, pay attention, friends, read the room. We've had a lot of discussion in the past few years about licensing adult use, and not in any of those conversations was there a proposal to mandate vertical integration. There's a distinct and clear effort to move away from that, to license retail and cultivation and wholesale separately. So why in the world would you think that some ham-fisted policy approach from 2017 still has legs in 2023? It doesn't. So I don't see that going anywhere. Doesn't mean we won't see that bill introduced. I just don't think it has legs. I'm sure someone who makes a lot more money than I do will tell you differently. Listen, I've told you about this before, and I'm still waiting to see the draft. But we also expect that there will be a bill that you will hear us refer to as the enforcement bill. I know there's been some language proposed by the administration and some budget language, and this is not related to hemp, and this is not the enforcement bill to which I am referring. I am referring to a bill that has nothing to do with consumers and that has everything to do with ensuring that people aren't selling consumers garbage that's not tested, that's not labeled appropriately, all of that. You'll remember in 22, there was some budget language, particularly around these unregulated edible products that says you can't use look-alike packaging, you can't sell THC to people under 21, you have to put it in child-resistant packaging, you have to label it appropriately. And the sort of penalties, the enforcement mechanisms for this budget language, just super weak. There's nothing really meaningful about it. Basically, a food inspector might come talk to you. You might get a warning letter. It's really not until after someone's harmed and they report it to the Office of the Attorney General's Office of Consumer Protections, then any real action can take place. And even at that point, it's still like a $2,500 fine. And I think it's interesting to look at this through a criminal justice lens, where if you are an individual who is selling cannabis outside a regulated marketplace, you will be prosecuted for possession with intent to distribute. Doesn't matter what amount of cannabis it is. If it is possession with intent to distribute, it is illegal in Virginia, and you will be prosecuted as such. But if you go ahead and open a brick and mortar business, you're going to get what? A fine? A warning letter? Okay, that seems wildly disparate, and penalties ought to match up. So we'll see. We'll see. Will there be other wonky bills out there? Yes. The Virginia Association of Commonwealth Attorneys, or at least part of them, because they tend to be split on this issue, but at least some of them have been out there with this pretend hand wringing over the new fantastical difficulty that they apparently have prosecuting DUID in Virginia. Didn't Last year we talked about this, and there was no issue prosecuting DUID in Virginia, but now suddenly there is, and despite the fact that the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration has repeatedly said that once legalization takes effect, that impaired driving doesn't skyrocket, deaths don't skyrocket, despite what the federal government has said about this. These entities out there that make money on prohibition and criminalization are wringing their hands over, this is going to happen. This is going to happen. No, we haven't seen it happen. Hasn't happened in the 2 decades of regulatory experience we have with cannabis in the United States. But still, it's fun to stick your hand out and ask for money. And, really, if there are actual concerns about impaired driving in Virginia, there are some just real common sense things we could do. We could and should give some more money to the Department of Forensic Sciences so they have adequate staffing. That'd be cool. And if we were actually concerned about impairment and not just prosecuting people, not just getting them for weed, right? If we're actually cared about impairment, then the state could adopt impairment testing software. It's readily available. I don't have any connections to this company, but I'm sure you've heard me before mention that Predictive Safety has a product called Alert Meter. It's software-based, and it measures for impairment regardless of substance or reason. When an individual fails that test, then you could move on to fluids-based testing. And this is in use around the country. But again, that's not what they want. What they want is a special breathalyzer, or they want to swab your mouth if you drive a car. Look, these aren't based in science. DFS has testified that these aren't based in science. There's ample evidence. Even AAA has repeatedly commented that these are not scientifically based tools. There is no science to support the idea that there is a per se threshold for cannabis DUID. So we can't just pick a number, despite the fact that Baca is suddenly proposing 3 nanograms. Just pick a number and say, because you have this number of nanograms of THC metabolites in your body, you're impaired. It's not based in science. There's no science to support that. States that had previously adopted per se DUID thresholds have since abandoned them. Numerous Supreme Courts in different states around the nation have ruled that these are unconstitutional. So there is an effort in Virginia, number one, to adopt a per se DUID threshold for cannabis, not based in science. There is also an effort to adopt mouth swabbing. So if you drive a car, you'd be subject to someone sticking something in your mouth. I agree with Senator Serval. We better have a real lengthy conversation about that before we adopt any policy like that. Also, those aren't scientifically supported for gauging impairment. Listen, there are tools out there if that's what people actually care about, but it's not. What they care about is making it cheaper and easier to prosecute you for DUID, whether you're impaired or not, because weed gives people bad feelings. Wow, thanks for asking, Jennifer. That just got put a lot out there. Whoa. All right, and MD, you asked too. Shaniqua, I hope North Carolina is on the way, my friend. Look, you gotta just, you can get there. You gotta be willing to take those tiny wins. I know they're not sexy, but it's okay. Do what you can do and just keep moving forward. Hey, Jake, do I know if Virginia is planning on using Metric like in Colorado? So Virginia historically has not been in the business of mandating brands. Like, we don't say that you can only buy Kleenex brand Kleenex in Virginia. You can buy whatever Kleenex you want. I know in some states they do mandate a specific brand. Will we do that in Virginia? We don't today. So seed to sale tracking is not new in Virginia. We already have it. And the processors can use whichever brand they prefer. So I know Metric has a lobbyist here and is interested in getting the state to mandate their brand. I don't know if they'll be successful. Bronson, that's hilarious. Sorry, friends. Hey, Mike. Hey, Adam. Yeah, Adam. I mean, look, prices have come down. That's good. Prices have come down on practitioner certifications as well. You know, got to keep growing the program. Hey, Liz. It's good to see you here, friend. Jake asks what happens if you refuse the test. So there was already, there are penalties currently in place if you refuse certain roadside sobriety tests. We don't have any new tests for cannabis at this point in time. You're right, insulin type 1. There are very few per se thresholds for intoxication. And you're right. Yeah, obviously you're being facetious. Yes, absolutely. We would not want to adopt any policies that would be used inappropriately. Yeah, you're right, Fonz. It doesn't affect the body the same as alcohol. Cannabis is fat. Cannabis metabolites, THC metabolites are fat soluble. They stay in your body for a long time. Yes, Beyond Hello is the provider in Nova. The current model doesn't allow for more than one provider per health service area. So everyone who goes to a physical location in Northern Virginia, goes to a dispensary in Northern Virginia, is going to go to a Beyond Hello dispensary. Fortunately, all of the processors are allowed to sell each other's products, so you are able to get more than just one company's products at any of the dispensaries. Hey, Fonz, thanks for bringing that up. Fonz asked if anyone is working on reciprocity for out-of-state patients. And I do agree with you, reciprocity is an important issue. I have brought this up repeatedly for inclusion in the operational improvements bill that we have every year for the medical cannabis program. I don't know how likely that is to succeed in the 23 session. I think it's worth taking a stab at it. I will tell you that the priority for the medical cannabis program in this next session is finalizing the transition from Board of Pharmacy over to the Cannabis Control Authority. That's really important. Now, of course, once the program's under the Cannabis Control Authority, it would be a lot easier to add reciprocity, and we should. But I think it's also worth exploring this year as well. Also, I think worth exploring is increasing the dose limit on medical cannabis products. Currently, there can be no more than 10 milligrams of THC per individual serving, which we call dose in Virginia, and no more than 100 milligrams per total package. Is that right? I think that's right. That largely is specific to edible, ingestible type products. Doesn't really translate to inhalable products. So no one get worked up there. You're not inhaling 10 milligrams of THC at a time anyhow. I think we ought to expand it. It would help bring costs down for consumers. Hey, James. Other James, good to see you. Yeah, we do have dose restrictions, Mike. They're not super. They're not terrible. They were worse before, but they could be better. Okay, Ronson, thank you for that. Here's a recommendation from Ronson. I don't know anything about it, but that's what Ronson thinks. Hey, Jim, good to see you. All right, so speaking of medical cannabis, a third dispensary opened in Hampton Roads recently. Down in Hampton Roads, the provider is the brand that you would see in a dispensary level is Cannabis. It's owned by Columbia Care, and they opened a third one in Hampton Roads. Good news for people out in that area. Now, we've put out 3 recent reports here at NORML. We've put out a local decriminalization report. It's on the website. You can find it. We put out our 2022 legislative report, and we put out a new to NORML report, which is an expungement report. We looked at publicly available data, and states have and local officials have issued close to 2 million marijuana-related expungements or record sealings since 2018. And states that have been most active in providing relief to those with past convictions include, ready? California, Illinois, New Jersey, New York, and Virginia. Good job, Virginia. Of course, in Virginia, these records are sealed. Like, expungement's kind of a catch-all term, and it means different things in different states. We previously referred to it as expungement. We've kind of dialed it back and are being a little more specific here. I mean, we will generally refer to it as record sealing. There is a process in place to deepen these sealings and to automate that process. Fortunately, we sank a bunch of money into it as a state, so it's less likely that we'll roll it back or pump the brakes. So there certainly have been efforts by some of the people that you all, for some reason, elect to do so. We have until 2025 in Virginia under current code to get this automated process in place. It doesn't mean it happens. Doesn't mean it's pushed out until 2025. It just has to happen by then. And then this would take misdemeanor possession with intent to distribute marijuana records, and would automatically seal them at a deeper level. And then it would provide a petition-based expungement option. So you would file and ask to have some felony records related to marijuana sealed or expunged. Not automated, but a petition-based process. So that's still underway. The reason why we can't just code our way out of it before someone asks if we've reached out to Code America. You cannot code boxes on the floor in the clerk's office. And in some courthouses, not only are they still using MS-DOS, but there are lots of records that aren't even electronic, and you cannot automatically expunge records that are in a box. So we have to build a system, a statewide system. We have to get all these records digitized, and then the process can move forward. All right. I'm glad I'm getting to the part I wanted to really get to, which is the 2023 Virginia Cannabis Conference. Okay, listen, this is January 20th through 23rd here in Richmond, Virginia. Friday, January 20th, that will be the welcome reception, and we're going to offer a badge pickup in the afternoon as well, so you can be all ready to go. For Saturday the 21st, that is the first day of seminars and expo hall for the conference. Sunday, wait, let's back up, JM. January 21st, Saturday, we have added a new event to the conference weekend, we have added the Commonwealth Green Gala, and this will be that Saturday evening instead of just a reception with awards. It will be a much larger gala type event. Then Sunday will be the second day of the seminar and expo hall. Sunday night, everyone rests because Monday, January 23rd, is a cannabis lobby day at the Capitol, and you'll be able to catch the shuttle from the Delta right up the street because it's cold in January and some people don't want to walk uphill. It's nice to have a place to park at the hotel as well. Also, totally walkable, but those are all the things that happen. That Monday we give you coffee and bagels at the hotel when you pick up your lobby day packets before you go head off to your meetings. You can find everything you need to know about the Virginia Cannabis Conference at virginiacannabisconference.com. Imagine that. You can register. We've actually increased our offerings and reduced prices. So you can get a VIP all access pass, which includes the welcome reception, both seminar days, expo hall, and the gala, all for one low price of $300, which if you've ever been to a cannabis conference anywhere else in the country, you will know that is an extraordinarily low price for that number of events. We, of course, rely on the generous contributions of sponsors to help produce this event and provide you with this content. So if your business is interested in sponsoring the conference or in being an exhibitor, all that information is on the website as well. You can just shoot us an email or fill out the form. Also, make sure that you register for Lobby Day. Registering for the conference won't register you for Lobby Day. These are separate forms, so make sure you register for Lobby Day. And you can do either or both. Both is probably a good idea. Oh, all right, Folly. Coming in with some safe banking madness here. Why doesn't Schumer try to pass a safe banking bill on its own? That's a good question. Do I think they have the votes to pass it alone? I think they could, but I think that because you are not seeing it as a standalone bill right now, the answer is no. I love all of these questions that are just way out there. Hey, James, what do I think Kentucky is going to handle with the new medical plan by the governor? Look, I think that was a bold step by Kentucky's governor. It's definitely a first step. It's not a solution, right? Encouraging people to commit federal interstate drug trafficking is never a public policy solution. But I will remind you, James, and viewers, that's what we had in Virginia first. In Virginia, we had an affirmative defense for possession of essentially CBD oil for people with intractable epilepsy, which means children. That was it. And we gently reminded the legislature that as generous as the get out of jail free card was for a handful of kids, they still needed to be able to access this medicine, and committing federal interstate drug trafficking was not a public policy solution. So then they let us move forward with the medical cannabis pharmaceutical processor program. Here we are. Medical cannabis is legal. So, James, I think it's a great first step. I think it will help keep people out of jail. And I look forward to what Kentucky does next. Just like in Virginia, though, James, elections have consequences. And as long as your state continues to elect clowns, it'll be more difficult to get meaningful reform through. Don't elect people that don't like cannabis policy reform if that's your priority. That's what I've got to tell you. Thanks for tuning in, Kenneth. Good to see you. All right, everyone. What else? Ooh, Crime Commission. Yes, we did talk about Crime Commission and the nonsense 3 nanogram proposal and all this other whatever. Crime Commission is going to meet again I'm not going to go look through my email to find out what the date is, but there is one coming up. I'm sure Cassidy can look for that on the Crime Commission website. There was no agenda published yet. It'll be updated when there is. If you want to find out when the Virginia Cannabis Control Authority Board of Directors, the Cannabis Health Advisory Council, Public Health Advisory Council, that's an advisory board to the CCA Board of Directors, the Cannabis Equity Reinvestment Board, that board keeps trying to meet. They canceled the last 2 meetings. That's cute. So there's the 2 advisory boards and the board of directors for CCA. There is also the Crime Commission, and I do not think the Legislative Oversight Commission, which is a legislative body, will meet prior to session. But you can track all of these on Commonwealth calendar. That's where you can look to see when these meetings are happening. This is also where you would have found information about the hemp task force that met and put some very weak policy options forward. Commonwealth calendar, it's your friend. Thank you, Cassidy. Virginia State Crime Commission will meet again on January 10th. I expect they will again discuss this DUID proposal. I'm just scrolling through all the notes that Cassidy and Ben generously provide me to see if we want to talk about anything else. Yeah, I'm just going to stay with that. Hey, anytime you see people talking about DUID for cannabis in Virginia and they bring up this recent survey that was done that is alarming, not going to lie. I don't know why people think that it's safe to like get high and drive a car. That's super irresponsible. Don't. Sherry. I gotta get it, Sherry. Look, make good choices. Don't be stupid, especially this holiday season. And, you know, you're going to travel. It may or may not involve cannabis. If you're going to drive your car in Virginia and have cannabis in it, please put it in a container that locks and then put it in your trunk. In your trunk. If your car doesn't have a trunk, then it would be behind the last row of passenger seating. Make sure it locks. Make sure you and your passengers don't smell like weed, because you need to make good choices. The best law enforcement interaction with cannabis is one that never happens, and you can make it pretty easy just by making good choices. If you need a case like this, we have these hard side cases on the Virginia NORML, in the Virginia NORML Facebook shop, and you can just order those from us there. You order quickly, ship them out early next week, Monday. Ship them out Monday. So yeah, make good choices. And if you are if you're still unaware of what it means to be a responsible consumer, I encourage you to read NORML's Principles of Responsible Use. They're on the website. I'm sure Cassidy and Ben can find the link and drop it in the chat for you. I'm going to post it across NORML socials over the holidays, because I think it's important to know what it means to be a responsible consumer. And we've got guidelines for you. Make good choices, friends. Have a safe and happy holiday season. James, I'm so glad that you also like this saying. I said it so much that Sherry sent this to the office. It's been wildly entertaining. Tanya, you can get one of these. Sherry makes them, and you can find Sherry on Instagram at Sherrybomb. That's O-H, Sherry, S-H-E-R-R-Y, bomb, B-O-M-B. Sherrybomb on Instagram. Sherry made that for us. And thank you for finding that link, Cassidy and or Ben. Mike, you take care as well. All right, friends, this has been great. I have to go cough a whole bunch right now. because my lungs are quickly filling up with fluid. Also, hey, a lot of you have already been joining for 2023. These are the 2023 Virginia NORML member cards. I've seen so many membership emails come in this week. So thank you very much. We'll start getting these out next week. And we will also be sending out next week the NORML 2023 membership cards as well. Whichever one you want. If you want Virginia, you go to vanormal.org/join. Of course you want that. And if you want NORML, of course you want that. normal.org/join. Get your 2023 memberships. Make sure you go ahead and get your tickets for the 2023 Virginia Cannabis Conference. The hotel room block is available as well. It's a really great rate, so go ahead and book now before that sells out. Oh, thank you, MD. So good to see you. All right, friends, I hope everyone has a wonderful weekend. And I think we'll probably go ahead and do a show next Friday before the holidays, recap anything new that's happened. Of course, talk a lot more about the conference. And hey, make sure you're following that website. We started building out the agenda today, added some new agenda topics today, and there'll be more to come next week. All right, everyone, be sure to hit that like, follow, or subscribe button wherever you're watching. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you back here next week. Bye-bye.